What's up everybody, Tom here with another video. In today's video, we'll be discussing the latest stock market news, and boy oh boy is there a lot of news to cover throughout this video. Things are having a huge impact, and we'll be talking about those impacts using our technical analysis thoughts on the S&P 500, Nasdaq, Tesla, Dow Jones, dollar index, and more. There's a lot to cover throughout this video, but more importantly, there's a lot of big news that's impacting the stock markets right now around the world. Stay tuned. Well guys, as many of you would be aware by now, we like to take a look at some of the previous day's action to try to find out what might be happening in the future. One of the ways we can always do that, taking a look at a heat map such as this at finviz.com. Really, more of the same. We got that vaccine news just before market while we were live streaming. And if you want to find out more about our live streaming, we do it every Monday, an important session. So definitely consider subscribing to that if you think it might interest you. So really, it's tech that gets hit during these times. We saw Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon not really have great days, while other sectors that have been kind of hated recently, the financials and of course energy, did very well based on this news. One of our favorites, Disney, also did very, very well, which is great to see. But when we take a look at the broader markets, we kind of saw a different approach yesterday with Wall Street buying the close. Look at this. They actually purchased the close. We talk about how the trade during the day is important, but the big predominant factor most of the time is actually the close of the day. And Wall Street bought into the close, specifically buying companies such as Boeing, Caterpillar, and other ones that have positive relations to these vaccine kind of trials and news that have been coming out of the last week. Notice again, Nasdaq 0.63, S&P 500 1.16, and Dow Jones, the flavor of the month all of a sudden, 1.6%. When we take a look at sectors, we'll see why as well. Energy having a massive day. This is off the back of what a 13-14% week last week, plus on many energy stocks. So great days there. And other sectors were coming with it as well. Surprisingly, the XLY sector was coming as well, which is consumer discretionary. So a lot of optimism in the markets. And in general, oil has been doing the exact opposite of what many people believed it was going to do after the US election. So what's causing all of this news? Well, one of them is, of course, this bit of news here, which is the Moderna CEO cheers, of course, a vaccine safety as a game changer and says there's going to be 20 million doses by the end of the year. If we take a look down here, you'll notice it's 94.5% effectiveness in preventing this crisis. So that's really good news for the market. It's good news for us as the people, and hopefully there'll be even more better news from multitudes of different drug makers around the world. This is just probably the beginning of many having breakthroughs and therefore providing optimism to the markets. Other big news after markets, Tesla joining the S&P 500. Wow, a pretty monumental day, and it's causing the stock to move very hard. We'll be taking a look at that throughout this video. The stock's jumped more than 9%, but I can tell you at the time of this recording, in aftermarket trade, it was trading even higher. So Tesla has now been included in the S&P 500. It's yet to be named what it's going to be replacing, but I think this is a big win for Elon Musk and obviously a big, big win for Tesla traders and a vindication of all of the kind of faith that they've had in this stock for such a long time. So Tesla joining, we expect, of course, a rotation in. It'll be relatively quick and then moving forward. Now, also, it's hitting a key resistance zone, which will be important to the next couple of weeks for Tesla. In other big news, Buffett's Berkshire betting big on pharma and obviously betting big on the stock markets in general, buying 4 main companies. You can see them here. We've got AbbVie, Bristol, Merck & Co., and of course the Pfizer Inc. So everything really being bought up by Buffett here in terms of drug makers. He's bullish on those particular sectors right now. So before we get into the technical analysis, I just want to talk about a couple of things, and that is what is a healthy market and what is an unhealthy market. So a lot of people are probably a little bit unhappy with where the market's at, but we are starting to see some positive signs from the way that the market is moving forward. If we take a look here, stock price breadth is something a lot of people look to in terms of healthy or non-healthy markets. We kind of looked at this a little bit when we were talking about the weakness of the real market due to tech becoming such a huge part of the rally through June into really September. And since then, what we've seen is that the breadth has improved throughout the market, and it is increasing at a nice steady rate. It isn't a market that's increasing with no breadth. It's a market that's increasing with breadth. And that is important when we consider the healthiness of a market. Other things to consider, of course, also, what are us, the retail traders, doing? Are we buying puts? Are we betting against the market right now? Or are we betting for the market right now? And there's been a huge openings of puts recently. So expect this options week, as in the Thursday into Friday, to be pretty important. We're going to have a lot of expiring options. And while the market might not be able to go down before that point, possibly the market may return back to some kind of little bit of normality after it's taken our money, the retail traders. Remember, Wall Street don't like to push the market down when everyone thinks it should be going down. So look at these CBO daily market statistics, and we don't quite have the details from Monday here yet, but it is important to have a look at. Another one that's worthwhile having on your charts, trading view here, PCC, and this is the put call ratio for CBOE, and it's always worthwhile having this on your chart, selecting a line chart, and then seeing where put call ratios are in the broader term. So we'll be taking probably a little bit more of a look at that tomorrow in the daily videos. So let's talk about the broader market and then go into the S&P 500, Tesla, etc. So here's the broader market in terms of fear right now. This is the volatility index, and we've clearly got below this 25 zone. 25 was a clear support here on the channel. It was a level that we'd focused on for many weeks, and then it kept being a very great support, and there was always a lot of fear that came off that. But we're now underneath that zone. We have a 2050 cross here confirmed on the daily, and it looks like we're set to go back down to 20 right now. Now remember, anything over 20 still provides a lot of fear and shock value in the markets, which can mean that at any point in time we could get flash crashes quite easily. But underneath 20, we're usually going back into a more normal market, more in recovery. And during recovery phases, beaten down sectors such as energy and financials tend to do better for the first 3 to 6 months. Dollar index also showing us kind of weakness here as well. Dollar index had a bit of a bullish move off that initial Moderna information and then weakened throughout the day. If it makes a new low here below this 92.50 kind of area, closes below that zone, I would not be surprised at all to see further weakness in this pair down to the 92.20. And as we say, check the bigger time frames. That's going to be your biggest key point. And when we have a look at the weekly, getting under 92 is so key for dollar weakness. If we get under this 92, where do we go next? 89. So we've got 3 potential cents here that will move very quickly, as that's what's happened in the past. Look at this resistance, support, most likely going to act as support again. So dollar bears, if it gets through the 92, there could be some very quick, very sharp rallies in stock markets, and of course weakness across dollar index overall. Onto gold. Gold had a very wild kind of day. It just shows again and time again that it's incredibly volatile instrument to trade in the markets. Here we had gold during that Moderna news. It sold off very quickly down to 1864. 1850 has still been incredible buy zone for gold, and it quickly rebounded back up and held above that 1880 area. So 1880 to 1888 has become a bit of buying pressure here. We got the close candle right on the 20 moving average here on the 4 hour, and right now it's struggling but trying to make a new high. Consider gold, if it gets through this 1900, this is going to be key, because we're through at this point a 4 hour 200 simple moving average, a 20 exponential and a 50 exponential. And this will trigger some amazing moves. So we get above 1900, we have a lot of bullish intention, and also all of these moving averages act as dynamic support at that stage. So for the bulls, that would be a very strong number. Look for 1900 this week, and if we get above, I would expect further bullish momentum, possibly even up to 1960 highs, and that will be coupled by, of course, US dollar weakness across the board. On to Tesla. Well, Tesla, big news here, 463 in post-market trade, up 13.47%, and it's still moving right now at the time of recording this video. This is pretty big news here for Tesla, and you can see why it's gone to 463. Notice our previous closes here. This is a daily chart for Tesla, and it always likes to do this. The market will quickly react, push into a key level of resistance or support after big news, And then this becomes the key battleground when the market opens between the bulls and the bears. If the market, let's say, closed above this zone, what do we know about Tesla's previous kind of moves? Well, Tesla, when it has gotten out and above, rocket ships to the next zone. So where's the next zone? Well, we've got previous resistance around this $500. And then after that, of course, well, we don't know. It's never been there. But this is an incredibly important level to see a close above for Tesla. If we get one, I don't know if we get a conservative pullback. We haven't necessarily been seeing those, at least in the initial bull run. So Tesla 463, that's the reason why it's up here at this potential resistance, because it's going to open and we're going to see the true sentiment of the market each way. Whether it can get through this zone on hype alone could push it way further. We know that this big news being included in the S&P 500 is going to have a lot of retail herd traders hyped to get back in Tesla. So interesting news there, and very, very important level it's going to be opening up. I just wanted to talk about generally important levels on stocks that were once the hottest kind of stock in the market and now have become a little bit less asked for. When we do our live streams on Monday, we usually take questions from you, the community, and we always go through some stocks that have been requested. One of those used to be Shopify. Now, Shopify is not so hot right now in terms of being picked, but like many of those stocks that had a very great run from April all the way into really July, they're now all testing these support zones. So if you feel like you've missed out on market opportunity in terms of the broader indices, you can always go over to other kinds of stocks that were hot and now aren't as hot and take a look at the price action. They're all coming down to some pretty nice support zones. They were doing that during the stream yesterday. And of course, these are like little double bottoms. Think of it this way. You've got a low, you've got an equal low, intervening peak. And then of course, if the market gets through here, it gets through a 20, and it's really signaling that maybe this little bit of an end trend down is going up. So just always pay attention to different stocks and maybe not what is the hottest at this time. Try to be the forefront of thinking about it. We were talking about energy just about a couple of weeks before it really popped. You don't want to be stupid, but you definitely want to be smart when you're picking your stocks that could become hot once again. If we're talking about major indices, let's take a look at the Dow first. Well, the Dow historically almost closed on that 30,000. I think it just closed slightly under it. 30,000 is a very key resistance. It's a 10,000 psychological. And when you look at this chart, you know that the Dow has been the strongest of the indices in the last couple of days of trade. It's been very, very strong off the back of this vaccine information. A break of 30,000, where does it go next? Well, you'd have to go through history to have a look at when it broke 20,000 and whether it actually cared about any other level. So here's when it broke 20,000 for the first time. You can see it found some resistance, broke it, had a very nice breakout, and then it came down and gave a decent opportunity. So there might be an initial very quick melt up here on some indices, followed by a slow kind of decline back down to those points, and then the next pickup for the next move. Just be warned, 30,000 is key. Would you buy here? Maybe not. Would you sell here? Oh, you can make arguments for it for sure, but the problem is that it's a key zone, and it's one of those zones that I like to see it play out more and give us a direction before I make a decision either way. On to the US 100. So we're actually getting a bit of a discount here on the US 100, if we can call it a discount, of where it's previously been. So it was 12,400, and because of the vaccine news, many of the US 100 companies have been declining a little bit. Here we've got the US 100 trading at 12,053. We can see that it's slightly above the previous resistances here at 12,050, and it came down and is testing those. But I wanted to bring up this chart. We're on a 1 hour here on the Nasdaq, and because there's not any clear amazing zones, I'm noticing though this 200 simple moving average has been a very good buy zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. So it may be worthwhile having the 200 simple moving average on your chart and then considering what you're looking at when it comes down to this level in the future. Definitely one to watch there for the US 100. S&P 500, well, more of the same really based on the Dow. We were going to make a video on the weekend, but we couldn't unfortunately get around to it due to some other commitments. But basically I saw this as a little double bottom. And my thought process was it was going to go that length, and it did so almost in the futures. Notice how it just got slightly underneath that very aggressive bullish move here off the gap open, and it's now continued up off the Moderna news. So what next for the S&P 500? Well, it's very difficult to, again, buy it or sell it here. We're at the peak of resistance. We're at that kind of 36.50 zone. We reached slightly higher than that during the futures trade. And it's just this really important area where the bulls and the bears will have a fight. And if it breaks out above this, it's probably going upwards of 3,700 plus, maybe even 3,800. But if it stays in this zone, the bears can still get control of it and push it back down. So what we want to be doing is looking for moving average pullbacks that make some type of sense. Now, we haven't touched a daily 20 in some time. We've had that big rally from the US election, and we still haven't even got to a daily 20. So maybe we do have a pullback here. We hit a daily 20 after this big rally, and then we make the move up. I'm not necessarily convinced that this is going to melt up fully heavily. Dow at 30,000. Yes, there's good optimistic news, but we still have stimulus concerns. There's quite a lot to unpack, and we'll be doing that throughout this week. But for sure, right now, there's still stock market opportunities, as in specific stocks. And of course, the Tesla news, I think, is pretty big. If you enjoyed this video today, please remember to, of course, give it a like, subscribe if you like it, hit the alert bell. And overall, I just want to say thank you again to the trading community and investing community. You guys are making me not only get more subscribers, but also motivating me to make more videos. So thank you very much for all of your support out there and comments down below. We'll see you in tomorrow's video, and good luck today trading the markets. Bye for now.